That's right. It's overtime here on CMU-TV. I'm Dean Allen, joined today by the Maverick swim and dive head coach, Mickey Wender. Coach Wender, another year, another RMAC tournament title for both your men's and women's swimming. Seems like kind of those one of three things in life that are certain of death, taxes, RMAC championships. How have you guys been able to maintain this dominance for so long?
Great kids, hard work, amazing just environment here at CMU. I think we've got some momentum, some traditions, some pride in being the kind of program that we are. But Dean, the most important thing I do is pick the right people to be in this, and they're amazing. So every year is a new adventure. This was a great one, but we don't take any of it for granted, right? You got to kind of start from scratch each year, but they understand what winning feels like and what's required to make that happen. So feel really good about the culture and about the people. And this was a fun year. You probably asked me, but this is my 34th year as a college head coach, and probably, Dean, the most fun, rewarding, satisfying feeling. Not just that both teams were third, but the way they treated each other, the way they treated the program, a lot of love, a lot of just good feeling. It was a fun year.
Now you talk about that pride and that culture and that hard work. With you having been here for 7 years, how have you built that culture? What does that process look like for you?
I think it's a matter of being really deliberate with the type of people that we're looking for. You know, in order to be happy, successful, productive in this program, you need to be ambitious, you need to believe in team over self, and you need to be a little bit tough. I talk to all of our incoming people about how important is swimming and diving to you, right? And in order to be successful in this crazy sport, it takes an absurd amount of work. And so the first thing we look for is that ambition. They got to have big goals. The idea of team, Dean, is valuing being part of something larger than yourself. And in swimming, it could be a little bit unique because, you know, in some cases it's an individual endeavor, swimming and diving, but not here. And so the team matters most. And, you know, in terms of being tough, I think we're nice coaches, we're good people, but I'm traditional in my values about what is required to develop a swimming and diving athlete to their full potential, and that requires a lot of work. And in order to do that properly, you gotta be a little bit tough. So those are sort of the three cornerstones in terms of the way we pick the people, and then it's, you know, we take a lot of pride in our performance. So,
well, and talking about, you know, that old school coaching kind of mentality, we've talked, you know, a few times in the past about percentage rate improvements of your athletes. How do you get them to just improve at such a much more crazy level than a lot of even Division I programs?
3.8% our improvement rate compared to 1.8 in Division I. And I think, Dean, it comes down to one, picking the right people with big goals that want to see how good they can be. Number two, in terms of the team, it's not just affiliation and connection. What being part of the team means is that you're going to push and challenge and be fiercely competitive and loving in practice every day. And I would say if there's one thing that's moved us towards that rate of improvement, it's what we call the Red Queen effect. I don't know if you're familiar with the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, but she was a badass character. And when Alice first falls down into the rabbit hole, she and the Red Queen are running. And Alice says to the Red Queen, "I'm running as fast as I can, but I'm not going anywhere." And the Red Queen says to her, "Here in Wonderland, we run twice as fast to get half as far." And so that analogy, we call it the Red Queen effect of people embracing the process and fiercely and lovingly pushing the whole program forward every day. I don't know if I explained that right, but that's a big part of it.
No, it was a great explanation. And you talk about, putting the team first, but you see with a lot of individual sports, wrestling, golf, swim and dive like yourself, how does the team not just compete against each other every day in practice and in competition, but support each other as well? When it's not their heat, you hear it even at our place where I feel like they can hear your team screaming from halfway down the road at Junction High School, right? How do you foster that team culture of, we're going to compete and I want to beat you, but I also want to see you beat me and succeed?
Yeah, I think that, just to your first point, the deck presence, it matters. Kids, athletes go faster when they feel that support, when they feel that energy. I have a really good example from NCAA's this year. We were in Evansville, Indiana, and Sydney O'Neal swimming the mile. And she's in the heat, so there's not a lot of people in the room. She's in the morning heats and swimming for points, and our team is there. Sydney's holding 31.2, like clockwork for the first 1,000 yards. And we were there, and she's getting ready. We wanted to try to help her make a move. And so they lifted Nathan Noble-Spice, a little flyer, up on their shoulders. And Nathan is now swimming in the air, right? And Sydney can see this, and she gets a burst of energy. Now her 31.2s become 30.6. She swims away from the heat and ends up swimming herself into the point, so she scored in that event. And I tribute the team, right, for their willingness, their desire to be silly and be aggressive and be helpful on the edge of the pool. To your point about who's going to win, it's that's just part of it. And I think they all have their own goals and vision and plan of where they're going to take it. If someone beats them, they're gracious but they're trying. They're not ever going to roll over. They're going to give each other everything they have. Most importantly, in practice. When a couple of years ago, we had a good swimmer, Ben Sampson, went 340.2 in the 400 IM, won the national title by 1/100th of a second. And we asked him, Ben, was that the hardest thing you ever did? And he kind of thought about it, and he said, yeah, except for practice. And so that idea that we're going to make practice more challenging, more effective, more than they could ever experience in the race, hopefully, that'll prepare them.
Now, you mentioned a couple times about the kind of people you recruit and you want to bring into this program. Outside of those guys and girls who are just obsessed with swimming, obsessed with diving, what other characteristics do you look for that you say, hey, this could be a successful swimmer at my program?
Obviously, potential, right? I have to be a very good guesstimator in terms of how good we can get somebody in the sport. There's a lot of people, thousands of young people that would love to be a part of our team. And so that talent assessment is a really big part of it. The three things, Dean, that I alluded to, the ambition, the team focus, and the toughness, we evaluate that in as many different ways as we can. One thing I'll ask all our incoming recruits, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? And the hardest thing you've ever done is the hardest thing you've ever done, right? It could be flat tire. It could be the loss of a parent as a young child. And how do you deal with adversity? I learn a lot about people when we talk about things that they've had to go through in their lives. It's an important part, picking the right people.
Now, you said that this was the most fun you've had in a season as a head coach. Going into next year with this program, what can you take from this season? What have you learned from this season that you're going to be able to apply next year to not just maybe get third at the NCAAs, but maybe even second or win the national championship?
A lot of that is performance and talent, but the feeling as you coach into 4 decades, you start to think about the feeling that you want people to have, right? We create meaning. We give them something really important to care about and something that matters to them a lot. It might just matter to us, and that's okay. And so I think a big part of it initially is coming together as a team and getting a sense of what is it that right looks like? What are we trying to accomplish? How will we know if we achieved our full potential? And if that's a national championship, great. If it's third, fair enough, right? We're just trying to maximize our potential and be as good as we can be. I think a big part of it, Dean, is love. Love for the sport, love for this thing, this program, love for Colorado Mesa University, love for each other. And we find that, and joy. You know, one of the themes this year, a couple of the guys discovered this movie Borat. And they loved it, right? And they watched it together. And then the music of Borat sort of became our theme song. And then the dance, the Borat dance to the music sort of became our dance. And it built and grew so much so that by the final day of the NCAAs, we are dancing with even the other teams, even our rival teams. You know, Tampa and Nova Southeastern, these two fancy private rich kids schools in South Florida, those are the two teams that won. You couldn't be more different than Colorado Mesa University, right? Gritty, blue collar, school in the middle of nowhere that nobody's ever heard of, a regional school going in there and causing a ruckus. And those teams wanting to dance with us and sort of became a theme. And so how do you balance the focus, the intensity, the fierce competitiveness with the love and joy and appreciation? And it's finding things like that dance, right? We were out in Horizon Drive last week. President Marshall came to our banquet. And after it was over, we all went out to the parking lot with our big speaker, friends, families, brothers, moms, dad, sisters, and we did the dance together in the parking lot out on Horizon Drive. And so it's little things like that sort of create fun, relaxed intensity, right? It's sort of an oxymoron, but that's what we need. You need to be loose and focused. You need to be relaxed, but really keyed in. And we found that this year really well.
Gotcha. Well, Coach, thank you so much for the time. Great to have you on the program. But that will do it from us. For the guy to my right, Coach Mickey Wender, I'm Dean Allen. That's my time for overtime.